0.25% gain so far for the year. We've still got that ICC court ruling. We should get it anytime soon. It's expected before Monday. What are your feelings as to how the market's likely to trade today ahead of that?
Well, thank you very much, Samantha. Very good observation there concerning the political concern, especially relating to the market. That would definitely affect especially foreign participation on our market and also a bit of the local, because especially over the period of December and January, we've seen very little activity in terms of the volumes and the turnovers. But the good thing is that some of the numbers that are coming through, like the news on Safaricom of some of these corporate companies performing relatively well, is also very positive in terms of creating a bit of activity on the market. And even the news about the coming listings is also creating a bit of positive sentiments relating to the market, and hopefully, just like you mentioned there, the positive performance of the market might be able to be sustained despite the temporary concern, especially concerning the matter of the political concern as at the moment.
Because we've got those results coming up soon, and likes of Equity Bank, KC Bank, the usual suspects. Looking at that loan book though, and when it comes to mortgages, you've got only 20,000 mortgages in the country with a population of around 40 million. Do you see banks being able to extend their loan book in 2012, given interest rates are sitting at record highs of around 30% when it comes to mortgage financing?
Well, looking at it in terms of mortgage financing, just like you mentioned, that the mortgage penetration in the country is fairly very low, yet the demand for housing has been rising steadily over the recent past. And also, we're looking at it in terms of what we are seeing, the devolution, the new constitution is creating a lot of opportunities for developing of other towns in the country. And because of that, the opportunity for banks is fairly big and quite a good opening for them. The concern right now, especially most of last year, was the behavior of the interest rates, but that should be a temporary concern. We should expect them to be able to stabilize as the months go by, and hopefully once this creates an opportunity for them to be able to position themselves, that should be able to still help them to grow their loan book. I guess the other concern right now would be the issue of defaults, especially because of the interest rates, but going forward I think there's still a lot of opportunity, just like you mentioned.
Let's take a look at the construction sector, because that was the worst performing sector yesterday, and as I mentioned, the high interest rate environment really going to start impacting the real estate sector. That's what's being reported. There have been a lot of issues around East African Portland cement and supply concerns there, with the plant having been shut. What are your views on how this is likely to impact the company? Is it going to be significant given the supply has been shut for just over a week now?
Well, looking at it in terms of the numbers, especially for East African Portland Cement, what we know is that they are losing almost 50 million shillings a day because of their output. And looking at it also in terms of the overall market, for the construction industry, definitely it has been a very, very challenging operating environment. Looking at it in terms of the weakening of the shilling, looking at it in terms of the cost of production because of energy, which had gone up because of rains, which we are having a challenge with, and even looking at it in terms of the inflation levels. And because of that, definitely is a big concern. If we put into the picture the aspect of interest rates and the demand for some of these construction products, that definitely puts them in a very tight spot. But going forward, I should expect them to be able to put in measures like cutting costs and also increasing operating efficiency, so that they can be able to still sustain the momentum that you've been seeing that has been going on for the recent past. And looking at it in terms of the opportunity, just like if we could tie it in with the fact that there's still a lot of demand for some of these housing and developing of towns, definitely that puts them in a very good position. I guess the other thing for them to do now is to think about diversification and take advantage of some of these other regions that could still be coming up, like Southern Sudan, which will be able to still sustain their revenues going forward. For East African Portland Cement, definitely it's a bit of a concern looking at it in terms of what is happening, and the hope is that they'll be able to get back in business very soon, but that creates an opportunity for Athi River Mining and Bamburi, which are already listed, to be able to still continue taking advantage of the opportunities that are there.
Let's talk about Athi River Mining. Of course, the smaller of the three construction stocks, East African Portland, second largest, Bamburi in first place. Do you think that Athi River Mining is going to continue to eat away at their market share in 2012?
Well, going forward, the River Mining has been very well positioned to be able to take advantage of that. One of the things that has been very key in terms of their core strategy has been expansion, and they have been able to increase their capacity significantly over the recent past. And going forward, I should be expecting them to sustain that. I guess the only concern for people like Athi River would be the issue of the cost of their raw materials. Clinker is one of them, and hopefully, if they can be able to have that sorted, they should be able to increase their production and also take advantage of the opportunities that could still be there. Look at it, especially in terms of capacity, they have been very keen on that because of the opportunities that are already there in the market, and hopefully they're going to be able to sustain that. And going forward, I think Athi River is very well positioned, and that should be a stock to watch for this year.
Let's just have a quick look at the media space. Yesterday we had Nation Media falling back by 2.2%. Standard Group gave up 1.8%. Now, the core newsprint business has been a big concern. In 2011, we saw them having to raise prices in order to counter the higher operating costs that they're facing. To what extent are their revenues still reliant on the newspaper business?
Well, looking at it in terms of the Kenyan market, yes, the traditional approach, especially in terms of print media, has been what some of these companies have been very reliant on, especially looking at it in terms of the last few years. And just like you mentioned earlier, the operational costs definitely went up to do relating to whatever happened with the shilling, because some of their costs went up, and also distribution costs because of the fuel prices. And because of that, I guess they had to end up pushing some of these costs to the consumers. That definitely would affect uptake of some of their products. But I think the other concern for them right now would be advertising revenue, which I'm sure will be affected because most companies are cutting costs to be able to still strengthen their bottom lines. And so definitely going forward, that's a bit of a challenging operating environment for them. I guess the matter is still for them to be very keen on being operational efficiency, and also to take advantage of the strengthening of the shilling, because that might help them to be able to get their more raw materials a bit more cheaper. And also looking at it in terms of the political front, that might still help them in terms of their advertising revenues, and hopefully they'll be able to still sustain their performance this year.
Yep. The election has been cited as one of the positives for the media companies, and as you say, government spend in terms of marketing around that. Samuel, we'll leave it at that for today. Thank you very much for your time. Samuel Wachira is a general manager from Francis Drummond & Co.